You've been following this for years, what North Korea's nuclear capabilities, missile capabilities are. So how credible are its claims?
Well, I think, its claims about being able to hit the United States are very credible based on the altitude that this missile went. If you, put it at a more depressed angle, it could certainly hit basically every city in the United States. So they have certainly the range to reach any city in the United States. Now, whether or not they can actually put a nuclear warhead on top of this thing, that's still sort of an open question.
So, Rob, they clearly have gone farther faster than most people, certainly the public, expected. How difficult is that last step of miniaturizing a warhead and actually putting it on intercontinental ballistic missile?
Well, I was actually looking up earlier today on the U.S. history of when we did this, back in the 1950s, the early 50s, late 50s, and the early 1960s. It is somewhat difficult to get the warhead down to that size and then being able for the warhead to stand the stresses that are placed on it, both in launch and coming back down. It is a pretty complicated task. But again, we did this over 50 years ago.
South Korea's military staged its own missile exercise just minutes after the launch. What's the potential here for miscalculation and for a potential war to break out, given how heightened tensions are?
Well, of course, there's always that challenge in North Korea. The lines of communication and how both sides perceive things are somewhat difficult. But again, North Korea has done this before. I mean, this test is different in terms of the altitude of the missile, but they've done this before. The South Koreans have reacted. I think for the moment it's on a fairly predictable course. We'll see what happens in the Security Council. And really, I think the key response is, what does the United States plan to do about this?
So let's talk about the Security Council, which is meeting this afternoon here in New York, in fact. Is there anything they could do? Let's assume it was exactly the way you'd like. Is there anything that Security Council could do that could actually dissuade Kim Jong Un?
I'm not sure that there is. I mean, they can try imposing some more sanctions, but there's pretty tough sanctions right now, and there's not a whole lot. I mean, the real key here, I think, President Trump is correct in this. If the Chinese are willing to put a lot of pressure on Kim Jong Un, they may be able to move him, although I'm not convinced that they can. But I think that is really the only card, unless we are willing to sit down and talk with him face to face and see, have negotiations face to face to see what might happen there.